Rigorous, fair, transparent and educational. These are the words used by participants in the WSI Stallion approval system to characterise the process.
I think it's very important for breeders to be using fully approved stallions, especially stallions that have gone through this process, whether they're breeding competition horses for competition, or just trying to breed a nice commercial horse, a riding horse, you know. Like these stallions, they're fairly vigorously assessed, you know, especially with the vetting and everything, and I think it helps everybody breed a better horse.
It was a pretty formidable assessment process, so I think at the end of this, if you're still standing, it is just phenomenal, you know, because all the checks have been done. You have stage 1 where athleticism and conformation have been checked. You've had your full scope of medical checks, and you have your 3-day assessment with the judge. And if you get through it, you know you have a quality stallion.
I find the process of these inspections fantastic because they take each horse individually. So say, look, it's a young stallion, he's going to have his head looking out into the car park, he's going to have his head looking at another horse, he'll make a mistake. They've come in, they'll put the fence down, they'll let him pop across it, then they'll put it up, and he's not penalised for it, he's not penalised for making a mistake. Which is brilliant for a young horse, you know, and it gives you a chance to produce them slower, more correctly, and at the end of it, they'll all end up in the same place, but they'll have got there in a nicer frame of mind. There's no pushing. I just find it fantastic, you know. If you have a WSI approved stallion, you know it's gone through a rigorous vetting, x-rays, and they will not pass it unless it has passed that rigorous vetting. Then they have judges that they have flown in, so completely independent judges, and they're judging this horse. So you know, like if you've got one that's not WSI approved, it could have anything, you know, it could be anything. Whereas this one, you know, is completely clear, and they have decided that it's something with a future, you know, that they can see something in this horse, that it'll go forward and it'll prove itself down the ranks later on in the years.
The horse has clean x-rays, the horse has a certain level of ability, and he has been passed by a renowned studbook, so therefore it gives people that are using the horses the confidence to actually use them. We also find that it's a very educational experience, both from the feedback we get and also from the experience that the horse gains by going through this process.
We were put under quite a lot of scrutiny, I would say, all of the horses. They were looked at in the stables, they were looked at in their warming up, they were looked at when they were being mounted, and then obviously they were looked at their performance and what they delivered on the day. Personally, riding a 3-year-old stallion, I was extremely impressed with the time that the judges allowed us. They were kind and very, very helpful. So not only was it a test on performance for the horse, it was certainly an education for all of us around to be around such knowledgeable folk. And I, for one, enjoyed the educational process because we are always learning every day, and the horse world is no different. So I certainly will be walking out this gate happy, but also with a little bit of extra knowledge.
At WSI, our primary focus is on breeding horses that excel in top-level show jumping, eventing and dressage. To achieve this goal, we employ a meticulous selection process with the WSI Stallion approval system playing a central role in our selection programme. The end result is a WSI approved stallion. A stallion with a verified high-quality pedigree, with comprehensive veterinary, genetic and genomic examinations, who is performance tested under saddle to ensure exceptional athleticism, rideability and trainability, and has the potential to be a leading sport horse and sire of sport horses.
The goal of WSI's breeding program and selection system is to help breeders breed and produce horses for international sport, championship level sport in show jumping, eventing and dressage.
The WSI Stallion inspection system consists of 3 stages. Prior to advancing to stage 1, we conduct a comprehensive assessment of the stallion's pedigree and dam line. Our aim is to confirm the absence of unapproved stallions in the pedigree, ensure the completeness of ancestral records, and establish that the dam line has yielded several horses with a proven history of competing at FEI international level.
For us at WSI, it's very important that the inspection system for stallions and mares be open, transparent, and free of biases. So for example, in stage 1, only I, the chairman, knows the pedigree of the stallion, and in fact we try not to divulge who the owner is or the breeder, so that the inspectors are just looking at the animal. In stage 2, we use the same process. In stage 3, we're much further along in the process, and the pedigree analysis is important. We've done that already before the horse even comes to stage 1, but we're looking at it again. So all the inspectors know the pedigree, we know the dam line, we have information about what that dam line's produced. Horse welfare is very, very important to WSI, and it helps to guide our stallion inspection system. So for example, the stallion must be at least 3 years of age before he can enter the inspection system. We don't want to ever overface a stallion and ask the stallion questions that he doesn't already know how to answer. So for example, when looking at a show jumping horse, we never ask him to jump higher or wider than he has done at home. So we have conversations with the rider. Can we raise the fence? Can we widen the fence? Is the horse comfortable with that? Because we want to make sure that it's a good experience for the horse.
In stage 1, the stallion is presented in hand and his conformation is expertly evaluated and documented using linear profiling and a trait system with scores ranging from 0 to 10. We also assess his soundness and movement on hard ground through walking and trotting in hand. If the stallion is 3 years old, he is asked to move freely in an arena, and if he's a show jumping or eventing prospect, he undergoes loose jumping. For stallions age 4 or older, they are presented under saddle, and if they are intended for show jumping or eventing, they are also required to jump a course suitable for their age and development level, in consultation with the owner and rider.
It's really at that point where we screen out stallions whose conformation just isn't good enough and whose athleticism is probably not good enough. Then the ones that pass stage 1 go to stage 2, which is the vetting and health exams. That work is done at Troy Town. It's always been done at Troy Town because we want the same consistent standards to be used to assess every stallion.
So when the stallion first comes in, I like to see the horse just standing normally, square, and assessing the horse from every angle. This is just a general conformational examination. This is in addition to a conformation assessment that's already been performed by selectors, but I include this as part of every veterinary examination, and it's extremely important for future in the sport. Following this part of the examination, I do just check the external genitalia of the stallion and have a quick examination over the skin for any additional abnormalities. During this time, I also auscultate the heart, which is just assessing for any underlying arrhythmias or murmurs that may be detectable at that time, which would make the stallion unsuitable for breeding and potentially sport. After this clinical examination is completed, we like to see the horse in hand, so we start our dynamic examination just at the walk on a straight line, walking away from us and towards us. This is again to assess correctness of conformation with the horse in action. The horse is then examined at the trot, in hand on a straight line and on the lunge on a firm surface, as well as flexion tests being performed of all of the limbs. My part in this examination is to assess for clinical soundness, so considerations for quality of gait and action are not really up to me, and that's something that the selectors are assessing more for, but I'm ensuring that the horses are sound and fit, especially as most of them have an intended use for sport in the future. Then we move on to the third part of the dynamic assessment, which involves lunging the horse on a soft surface. We again see the horse at the trot, but this time also at the canter. The exercise at the canter is mainly intended for wind testing purposes to ensure the horse does not make any noises at exercise. The heart is also auscultated for a final time following this bit of intensive exercise. We then bring the horse in again to perform the airway endoscopy. This is to assess the larynx, the pharynx, and the function of the upper airways. And we will be then grading them on a scale from 0 to 4, where anything up to a grade 2B is acceptable for both athletic and breeding purposes. We also take blood samples from each of the stallions, as well as swabs from the penis. These are sent off for testing to ensure that the horses are free of contagious disease. The final part of the examination includes a full set of 32 radiographs screening all of the joints of the animal. There may also be the option to include screening of the neck and the back. This is not intended for selection purposes, but may be very useful for owners for these stallions going forward in the sport.
We also look at his genome. We do genetic tests to see if he has the genes that tend to produce bone chips or osteochondrosis from a hereditary perspective. We also test for fragile foal syndrome. We were the second studbook in the world that started testing for that. We don't select on that. So if a stallion is a carrier of the fragile foal mutation, that doesn't exclude him from being approved, but we disclose it to the breeders so that they know I better get my mare checked to see if she's also a carrier to avoid problems that can come with that. Stallions that pass through stage 2, then they go to the stage 3 performance test, which is a 3-day performance test held in the autumn.
In stage 3, inspectors evaluate the stallion's natural athleticism expressed under saddle, as well as his interior qualities such as character, temperament, work ethic, and stable behaviour. On the first day, inspectors and veterinarians assess each stallion's soundness and fitness to participate. That afternoon, riders engage in light flat work under saddle while inspectors closely observe.
The rideability is a very important point, so we are there very strict in that they must be good rideable, good mind. They must work for the rider, so that's important, and that's we see the horses who are presented every year better and better, so that's positive.
On the morning of the second day, every stallion performs a dressage test appropriate for their age and discipline. For instance, all 3-year-old stallions, whether in dressage, show jumping or eventing, perform an age-appropriate dressage test. These tests provide valuable insights into the stallion's basic gaits, walk, trot and canter, and help assess rideability, trainability, balance and elasticity. In the afternoon of the second day, dressage stallions showcase their athleticism by navigating a custom-designed small gymnastic course. Show jumping or eventing stallions, on the other hand, demonstrate their athleticism by jumping an age-appropriate course.
The obstacles are not high, but we get an impression of the reflexes of the horses, the technique of the horses, and also a little bit of the scope. And it is important you have not too high with the horses. Now then we can see the rideability by the riding, the way of jumping, the interior of the horse we can see, and that we get a good impression of the horses.
The morning of the final day involves dressage stallions performing a new, age-appropriate dressage test, while show jumping stallions repeat the previous day's course, with potential adjustments to the fence widths and heights after consultation with the owner and rider. Eventing stallions tackle a cross-country course, with inspectors assessing 5 additional traits crucial for eventing sires and athletes: gallop, stamina, courage, the 5th leg, and the presence of blood in athleticism. WSI takes pride in being the only studbook with a custom-designed assessment for eventing stallions.
At each stage of the stallion approval system, there's complete transparency to the stallion owner about our decision. So the stallion owner, for example, in stage 1 gets a complete written report. We don't disclose it publicly because the stallion's not approved at that stage. That's between us and the stallion owner. The veterinary system, we do it in such a way that WSI is actually the client for Troy Town. So everything must be divulged to us, and all that information is disclosed with copies of the report sent to the stallion owner, whether the horse passes or not. With the performance test, everything is disclosed to both the the owner of the stallion and, if the stallion is approved, to the breeders. These reports are published on our homepage, and on a one-page form we have all the stallion's scores for conformation traits, for movement traits, for athleticism traits. We have the grade he received on the clinical exam, the x-ray report, and the airway report, whether it was excellent, good, or just acceptable. Obviously, if a stallion is graded not acceptable, he's knocked out of the system. The breeding value that the stallion received for the genomic test for osteochondrosis, that's printed on the report, along with the notes we've made, our comments about the stallion's strengths, weaknesses, what kind of mares may best suit him in the future. So there's one document that has basically everything we know about the stallion and recommendations to breeders as to how they might approach using him.
If you're a breeder and you choose a stallion that's been through the WSI Stallion approval system, you can be sure that you're getting a stallion that's sound in body and mind, is balanced, rideable and elastic, has good scope, reflexes and jumping technique. A WSI approved stallion is a sire that can help you breed for the future of equestrian sport.
WSI is here for you whether you're a show jumping breeder, an eventing breeder, or a dressage breeder. We're here to help you breed and produce the best foals possible and to see them compete in top international sport in the coming years. So join us, we'll do our part for you, and we'll create a new future for breeding in Ireland.